Give me a P.
P.
Give me an H.
H.
Give me a B.
B.
What do you say? Hey, give me a P.
B.
Give me an H.
H.
Give me a B.
B.
What do you say?
Hey.
Hey, welcome to another edition of Promotion Pro Live. Today, our topic is connecting for results. How many of you would love to build more deeper and meaningful relationships with your network, right? And how many of you would love it if less people resisted you? Well, today we're going to be talking about how to go from convincing to being more compelling, more empowering, and more able to connect in a deeper, more purposeful way. So I have just the perfect woman here to inspire us and give us the knowledge we need to succeed. Many of you know her as our chapter advisor, Marilyn Atterbury. She is a avatar master. She's a great friend. She's one of the most inspiring women I know. She has been in business for 45 years, and she jokingly told me that 20 of those she was convincing and not connecting with people. So she knows what it's like to be on the other side of the table and, not always in the zone of having it perfect, right? So she's going to share with us her experience and her evolution to becoming the awesome high-powered connector she is today and inspiring us all. And she said that one of the reasons she's so passionate about supporting women entrepreneurs is because she has been a woman entrepreneur since 1976. And she wants more women to feel successful and connected to their hearts and their purpose. So please help me welcome the one, me only, Marilyn Atterbury, Avatar Master. Woo-woo!
Wow, what an introduction.
Oh, well, I am so glad to have you with us today, Marilyn.
Well, I'm excited to be with you all too, very much. Yeah.
So my first question for you is, we're talking about connecting for results. And the question is, what is the definition of connecting? Because we can't do what we can't define.
Well, my definition of connecting is when I really have the intention to take my attention off of myself or to have any agenda, but to just put all my attention on the other and to have a really meaningful exchange of communication, of care, of intention, that that the two of us are a team and we're in this together and we're really connecting with the intention to have a very meaningful exchange.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Now, what would you say is the difference between connecting versus convincing?
Well, I'll go back to when you were introducing me and you mentioned that I had owned up to the fact that a lot of my time as an entrepreneur, when I was wanting to inspire someone to do one of my personal development workshops, that I was so convinced in myself that this is a cure-all, this is the way to make your life work, it's the way to make a difference on the planet, and I want you to know that, instead of just really being there with the person and feeling where they are and like sharing their world, so that instead of convincing them about the product, that they could ask me questions or I can listen to what they say, and it would automatically have them feel that wow, well, maybe this is something that I could be interested in.
I love
That we
that.
were that we were aligned. Yeah, I kind of see a connection is when instead of one person trying to push something on another, that we're aligned team wanting to come to some understanding where we both win. That it's a win-win transaction between the two of us.
Hmm. And I can definitely appreciate that because I've definitely have felt that I've done my share of one-on-ones with people, and it definitely has not felt like win-win. It felt like they were trying to convince me or persuade me. And if they were louder or if they spoke faster or if they said things or they repeated the same things over and over and over again, it was, as if they expected me to just agree with them. And agreeing with them just to get out of there is much different than connecting with them or aligning with them or wanting to continue to do business with them. And I love where you're going with this, with the win-win, because actually at PHB, when we do one-on-ones and group chats, they're called win-win one-on-ones and win-win group chats to keep in our forefront of our mind that it is a win-win situation, not whoever's more convincing wins. Right?
It was that quality that I felt in you when I met you and when I heard your purpose for creating this organization. And I said, wow, this is unusual because most organizations I go to are really into wanting to persuade people to do this or to do that or not to do this or not to do that. And you were so into empowering women not only to empower themselves, but to empower each other. So it was a meaningful exchange. And I said, okay, this is for me. Because another aspect of this is, and you were kind of moving in that direction, Jose, is that when someone else is trying to convince me, the natural thing is, okay, well, now it's my turn and I'm going to convince you. And then we have an adversarial, competitive relationship. And we leave the conversation with neither of us feeling like we're winning. I mean, it's lose-lose because we both feel misunderstood or that we didn't get it across, and what's wrong with that other person?
And thank you for everyone that just joined us. And I think this is a good time to check in with yourself. Feel free to even make a comment about, doing one-on-ones. Have you noticed that you felt like it was more about connecting and the other person really being in your world? Or do you feel like it was more in general about them trying to convince you or you trying to convince them? So feel free to share your comments as we're going, and let's keep this interactive. So very cool. Now, Marilyn, I have another question for you, which is, you also talk about sharing worlds. And when you say sharing worlds, it sounds cool, but what exactly do you mean by people are sharing their worlds with each other?
Well, basically, it means that for the length of this conversation, I'm really willing to step into your world and to feel how it feels to be who you are, to feel how it feels to be wanting to create a difference by your service or by your product, so that I can really go, yeah, I know what that feels. In fact, I've probably even felt that way sometimes myself. And that there's no judgment on where you are, there's no judgment where I am. We're kind of meeting that, we're really just like each other. And we're human beings. We wouldn't be trying to promote what we do if we didn't believe in it. And that by holding a bigger picture, actually, that we're both here to make a difference. And how can we support each other and ourselves to do that? How can we use this half an hour that we're going to have together in this conversation? How can we use that to improve ourselves as we go into the world and improve the world? Because everything we do is kind of like the way that my mentor says is that every thought we have, every emotion we have, every judgment we have, it's like a drop of in the ocean, and that we're responsible for our drop. So let's make the drop that's going to make a difference, and let's turn this conversation into a drop that's going to make a difference.
Hmm. And I think it's so powerful with what both of the points that you just brought out. I mean, I think the first thing is being so present to the other person in the conversation that you can even feel how they're feeling or relate to them, as opposed to being so in your head that you can only think about what comes next. And I think that's a good check-in point for everybody listening as well today, is thinking about, when you're with other people, are you in their world or are you in your world, right? And if you are not in their world, how are you going to impact them, right? How are you going to be a drop that they can actually feel, right? If you can't feel them, how can they feel you, right? So
yeah, it builds trust. Connecting builds trust, and convincing. I don't know if there's anyone out there that has a mind like mine, but I wouldn't be surprised if there wasn't. But if someone's trying to convince, the mind automatically kind of goes into, well, into maybe a piece of skepticism or wanting to check it out, which takes us into our head. And a connection comes from a heart and a real interest to be in the other person's world.
And another thing that I hear in what you're saying that I don't hear as much as I probably could in the business world is feel, right? Like, a lot of times, coming from a corporate environment, coming from an academic environment. I mean, I've worked in nonprofit, and as much as they're about heart, I haven't heard a lot of feeling, like, even in, how to do business, how to approach things. And so I'm just curious. I mean, for you bring up the word feel so much. And why do you feel like feelings are important, when a lot of times people say, get up, let's be logical, let's be rational, let's get down to business? Like, where does this feel come into things?
Well, as we become more aware of the effect that our beliefs have on us, we also begin to have a sneaky suspicion that everything that is true to me is based on what I've been taught, what I've read, what I've observed, and I've made decisions about that. I've made beliefs about that. And what that's done is it's created my own operating system. So if I stay in my head, you and I are connected by my operating system against your operating system. And I'm right about mine, and you're right about yours, and there's nothing wrong with that. But if we're willing to suspend our operating systems, to just say to the mind, okay, I'm going to just go into an intention to really be there in this world outside of what's true for me. That doesn't mean that they might say something I don't agree with, but at least I can understand where they're coming from. And when I can understand where they're coming from, I trust that they can be more honest with me. And when we are both honest with each other, then we can begin to get a feel how the other service can work for us, how our service can work for them, how we can work together. I mean, there's just so many positive effects on it. We can qualify our customers just by connecting with them. Maybe this person isn't ready for our service. Maybe they're perfect for the service, but we're not going to spend a lot of time trying to change the other's mind to be perfect for our service. We'll just respect where they are, and at least we leave being friends. We're not going to leave each other feeling that we've just had a battle. We're going to leave each other, if nothing else, we have a connection. And that could become a friendship. You know, a year later when you see your client, they may have shifted a lot, and all of a sudden, I really remember now what you said last time. I really think I would like to have this product that you are representing. I can really see how that would help. I believe that connection opens up opportunities. When in our head, we see what we see. When we open our hearts and connect, then opportunities that we may have missed will be there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the other thing I really just heard in what you said too was and it was something I hadn't considered, is the vulnerability piece of it, and having people tell you more and be more honest with you, because you're creating this space for them to feel at ease as opposed to feel attacked, right? And and I think that's a great thing to also ask ourselves, for everybody who's tuning in or just joined us, is also, when you are with people, a good gauge of how well you're connecting is how much they're willing to tell you and be open with you and allow you into their world, right? And so it's a good time to just kind of take a pulse and think back to the last, 5-10 one-on-ones you've done with people, or 5-10 people you've done a Zoom with, and look at for yourself, how much was it that you were both talking at each other versus really speaking with each other and sharing a deeper level of conversation? Because the more you can learn about them, the more you can genuinely support them, right?
Yes. I think we move from selling or promoting to creating a relationship. And when we create a relationship, then we start building trust. And when we can trust each other, then we can really listen to them, because we're not looking for ways where we don't agree. We can, and if we don't agree, we can even say that, but we know that we're not going to be rejected for it. Mm-hmm. It just opens people to think of a different way to be in the world. Even with our families, a lot of us are promoting ourselves and our belief systems to our families or to strangers that we meet. And what is that doing? If you believe that we make a difference every moment, what does it do to the rest of the world, the other people we meet, even someone we don't know? If we run into them and don't say, I'm sorry, go, whoa, that's rudeness. Well, we're creating a judgment. And, I created a judgment in the world by being so busy that I bump into somebody and just ignore it. Mm-hmm. So connection is a high big picture goal to set that goes way beyond our business. It affects everything.
Mm. That's really powerful. So what I'm hearing in what you're saying is that if you can do it in one area of your life, it could trickle into other areas, and you to have a deeper understanding of how it really feels when you are connecting.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Now, I know you brought up just a minute ago, the whole idea of being related as opposed to going into conversations and thinking about what you don't agree on. And I am curious, though, I'd love to stay with this topic a little bit more, because, how are you supposed to connect with people that you don't agree with?
Well, it really takes practice, and it takes tools, tools where you can begin to recognize your own triggers and where you begin reacting and where you begin defending. And when you're able to recognize what those are and to within yourself, uh, a word that I use that kind of identifies with the computer world, if you can delete the judgments on those and just listen to people, you can change your opinion. And I do have an example of one of my girlfriends who is also another avatar master. She was in an airplane and sat down with this person, and this person uh, asked her what she did, and she said, I teach a personal development course. And she says, well, what do you do? And he goes, oh, well, I'm a district manager for the NRA, or a district rep for the NRA, or whatever. And she felt her immediately go, oh my God, because she is not a fan of the NRA. She's not a fan of even owning weapons. And so she felt herself do that. However, she remembered tools to, okay, I want to connect with this guy. Maybe this is an opportunity that I can really understand a viewpoint that to me seems totally wrong. So she began questioning him, and he told her his viewpoints on why he felt it was important to be able to protect yourself. And she listened to that. And then he said, and what are your opinions on that? So she told him her opinions about that. And when they departed at baggage, they took this clear off, getting off the plane and getting their luggage. They both acknowledged each other for a meaningful exchange, that they both understood each other, and whether they agreed with each other or not, they had a bigger picture of the situation and that they were grateful for meeting each other. Now, we can do that with anyone, but we just have to be aware of when we want to either recoil, leave, attack, and get interested enough to learn more about the other, because to the other, in their indoctrinated past, they believe they're right, just like I believe I am.
Mm.
So it's handling our indoctrination when it comes to being with people who seem to be just the opposite. Realizing there's other cultures and ways of doing things.
Now, a question that came up as as we're talking about this is, how do you feel more comfortable when you're speaking to people? And the question is, how much should you rely on, let's say, having a script so you feel like you can handle everything, it's all on your script, versus being present with people and not having a script?
And do you mean in a one-on-one or in a presentation in front of a group? Or
I would say both.
both.
That's nuggets on both, Marilyn.
Well, when I do a presentation with a group, I'll have bullet points, because there are certain things that, my intention in giving the speech. But that doesn't mean I can't connect with my audience and notice, where they're nodding, where they're leaning in, where they might be flowing back. And that can give me cues to the way that I can keep my audience connected with me, instead of me creating a win-win in the group, so that we can understand each other. Now, when it's just meeting somebody like at a meetup or on the street or in a line waiting at the grocery line, let's say, or waiting at the post office, which is a great opportunity to practice connecting, by the way. I just be there with them and listen and reply in the moment, and not have any agenda about what I have to do, but just have this as an opportunity to practice connecting and seeing where that takes us. I had a time when I dropped my cell phone in the toilet, and this was on a Avatar course, and I had to go to Verizon and get a new one. I sat next to a guy, and I noticed that on his cell phone he had some positive statements. I said, wow, I see that you're into positive thinking. We entered into a conversation, and 2 hours later was at the hotel where I was staying, doing a informational hour about the Avatar course, and he showed up 3 days later in the resurfacing course. And my next course in July, his wife is coming. So you never know, standing in line with the perfect stranger, what that's going to do for your business and for the world and for them.
Mm. And the thing that I really respect about what you're saying is it wasn't so much that you were like, I'm going to try to convince every person in front of me to believe in whatever I believe in. But it was like you were coming from a space of just talking, relating to people, and in the moment of seeing what happens from that. So
yes, when you connect with them, then you hear them say something you can connect with that they're interested in, and you can connect with them in their interests.
Now, what would you say? Another question that's come up, and this is a good question, is what's the difference between having an agenda versus having an intention?
That is an awesome question. My agenda could be, I want to have this person do my service. And yes, I have lofty reasons. It's going to help them. Yes, it's going to help them. And it's going to help the world. So I want to give them all of my reasons. And when I leave, then I can judge myself on whether or not I was successful. That would be an agenda. And just connecting with them without an agenda, but with an intention, is my intention that the conversation will move us forward to the intention of my business, which is to create aware, awake people who are contributing to an enlightened planetary civilization that works for all of us. So if that's my intention, then wherever level we end connected and understanding each other contributes to that bigger picture. So the intention is like the bigger picture. The agenda is, how are we going to do that? So it's being connected to the big why, we often call it the purpose, instead of convincing people to believe the same way we do.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. Yeah, and that actually reminds me, it goes back to my childhood, and my mom, who's actually one of my biggest role models, did Mary Kay for 17 years. And when I was younger, I hated makeup. I was like, I don't want to wear makeup. I don't want people to comment on my makeup. People should like me for me, and I shouldn't have to do anything to impress them ever. And so that was my attitude, daughter of a Mary Kay beauty consultant, right? and so I was a little difficult. Like, me and my sister were very different. But my mom, like, what I'm getting from what you're saying is my mom actually didn't have an agenda. Like, she never tried to convince me or push me towards makeup. But she did have this higher intention that I always felt self-confident, and I believed in myself, and I felt beautiful no matter what. And and it was because of that like years later, I did step into, wearing makeup and doing it for me as opposed to doing it because I felt forced. And she held the space that I could step into whatever beauty looked like. And that's what I'm hearing. That's what I'm hearing in what you're saying too, Marilyn. I mean, having this huge promise, this huge intention to have a world that works for everybody is, something that's huge, right? Like it's a very huge intention to keep playing for, no matter where people are. And I love what you're saying about if you turn people off and they walk away from the conversation not feeling like they're friends, then they might not be able to step back in to doing something with that message. So I think what you're telling us is so powerful. And I would love if anybody has comments on this, like if you have an intention, for your business or your mission, feel free to share it in our comments. We can bring it up as well. So
I would love that. I would love to hear what other people have to say.
Cool. So we talked about connecting with an audience. We talked about connecting one-on-one. We talked about connecting with people you don't agree with. Another group of people that commonly come up are people that you don't know, right? Like you've never talked to this person before. How do you connect with somebody like just a totally cold person?
That's a great question. I guess as a fellow human being, kind of goes back to the standing in the line at the grocery store or the post office. It's you can just look at, maybe they're interested in something. Maybe, let's say at the grocery store, they're looking at the tray of mints and gum and all of that. And if you're connected with them, you can say, isn't it amazing what a variety that we have to make choices in today's world? And their intention is there. And so they'll go, whatever they say, it could be, yeah, it's kind of hard to decide what to buy nowadays because there's so many choices. Or they might even go into something like, yeah, and we hear so much on the media that we don't really know how to make choices. And we go, yeah, it's interesting how everybody's really wanting our attention, isn't it? And so they put out a product and put out a product and put out a product, hoping to get our attention. And then they'll say what they say, and then you can respond to what they say. And first thing you know, you're having a good time and you're laughing, and maybe it doesn't go anywhere further than at the end saying, wow, this was the shortest long line I've ever been in. You've made the world a better place. Wow. I'm not sure that answers your question.
No, it totally does. I mean, it's having some fun. It's like, that's what I'm hearing, a certain like fun and playfulness, and not this constant, really serious, like, I have to find people, I must talk to people, this is a cold market. And really, like what you're saying is just warming up to the idea that you can connect with anybody. It doesn't matter, right? Like, it doesn't matter if they're cold or they're warm, you can warm them up, right?
Well, what I experience with people is that right now there's kind of a scarcity of attention because there are so many things pulling us to it. And a lot of it is our phone and our laptop, which takes us away from connecting with other people directly. And it's just, we're bombarded with things that want our attention. Well, really knowing that, get interested, because if you're interested in someone, first of all, it may surprise them. They may go, wow, this is different. Somebody is actually interested in me. Someone is actually giving me some attention. So it's, when you're connected, you know where their attention is, or you're willing to find out what it is. And you have a basis right there for creating a meaningful conversation that both of you can participate in.
So I'm also curious, something that comes up is, let's say you're at a networking event and everybody goes and they find a partner, and And then you have people who are like, oh man, I'm with the same person again. What's the value in reconnecting with the same person you think you know everything about?
Okay, so this is someone that I've connected with before.
Yes, you talked to them before, you connected to them before.
Well, we actually have a basis for reconnection, hey, just even something like, wow, it's been a while. What's been going on with you since then? And they'll say something, and then they'll probably come back to me because I've opened a topic. And I can say, well, I'm planning to move, and I've really been busy moving, which is a exciting step for me, and it's kind of scary. And then they'll go, wow, I know what you feel. I don't know. I can't create their script for them, but uh, reconnecting with someone you already know, I think and connecting really is a great opportunity to further that connection.
Mm. Yeah. And the other thing I noticed for myself and like in the world of feeling is when you're in the practice of really paying attention and being more deliberate of how you're being with people, it's nice to have a baseline of being with someone you've been with before so that you can then compare it to how you're being with them now. Like, are you more present? Are you looking at them? Are you not on your phone? Do you feel like they're sharing more with you because of how you're being, right? Like, whereas if you're with somebody who it's the first time, it's like you have no baseline, right?
That is so cool because I've been trying to think of, if I could pass any short pieces of wisdom along based on this conversation, it would be that every connection counts and that there's an opportunity in every connection. And that's another reason not to be in an agenda, because if I'm in an agenda, that's all that counts for me. It's not the connection, it's the agenda. But if every connection counts and every connection is an opportunity, that opens for really forward movement for everyone concerned.
Mm-hmm. Cool. So I know we've talked about this. We've talked about this from the family perspective. We've talked about this from the business perspective. And we've talked about connections, every connection counting, which I love that mantra. I'm gonna put it on one of my Post-it notes. Everyone knows I love Post-it notes. And I'm gonna put every connection counts because visual is memorable. Right? And sometimes it doesn't always feel that way. Like if you're not in that spirit of it, you might be like, well, this one doesn't matter. It's a game of numbers, right? Like, and what you're saying is actually a little different, right? It's like going into anything with it actually does matter, right?
It does.
It does. So I guess like what I'm asking, Marilyn, is because we've kind of worked our way up from a more starting with yourself to expanding outwards. And now like if we take it to the ultimate extension of connection, like what do you think is really key to having the world as a whole connected to each other?
When we we have to look at the world how it is. And I know that it's really natural nowadays for us to have judgments about the world as it is. Some of us think how it is really, really great and we wonderful, and others think that we're on some kind of road to ultimate destruction, and others have ideas about what we have to do to change it, and others have other ideas about what we have to do to change it. And all we're doing is we're bouncing beliefs off each other, we're resisting each other. And there's a phrase that I also learned in the work that I do, and I know that it's in other work as well, is that what we resist persists. So if we resist things the way they are, guess what? We're juicing it. We're adding more ammunition to that battle, that right wrong battle that's going on. So if we're willing to suspend as much judgment as possible so that we can listen, so that we can begin to get other viewpoints, so that we can begin to have an exchange of information that ends in understanding each other at least, and it might even be a perspective we had not seen before that all of a sudden goes, wow, I'd like to think of that a bit more. It never occurred to me that if even a million people, think of it, a million people on this planet knew how to manage their minds and their judgments and believed that there was a way that they could modify their mind to be more happy and more successful, wouldn't you be interested in doing that? I mean, imagine if a million people felt that way and went into action to do that. Just think of how even a million in a land of 7 billion, or let's even up it a little bit more, make it 2 million, what a difference that could make in itself. We live in a, all life is dualistic. There's right and wrong and good and bad and all of that. And maybe that's the root of war. So anything we can do to create understanding instead of having to be right about our position can't help but help.
That is really profound. I mean, and simple, like profound and simple at the same time, because it's something simple we could take on is knowing our minds, it's being non-judgmental, it's considering other viewpoints, right? But at the same time, it's not that simple, because for most people, we're not in the habit, right, of really doing that. And to take connections deeper, I know you've been doing this work, in terms of having a deeper connectedness among entrepreneurs and their clients, among women and their families, among grandparents and their grandchildren, among, the world, right? And having more people connect so it can work. And I would really love it if you can share with people a little bit about what you're doing and how they can have access to the tools that you have to create a deeper level of connectedness on this planet.
Well, I'm what's called an avatar master. And I've been trained and licensed to deliver what I call a remarkable course. I've taught personal development, as you said earlier, Jose, for over 40 years. And about 25 years ago, one of my students invited me to do Avatar. So I did Avatar, and on about the 4th day of the course, I realized that this is really what I've been looking for. These are tools that allow me to engineer my consciousness, to change things finally, not just hope I can or try I can and get discouraged and all of that. And so I closed down my business and began teaching this. And I have seen people change in so many areas. I've seen people improve their health or learn to come to terms with it, to decide what they want to do with the rest of their life. Let's say were laid off during the economic crunch and they need to transition and they don't really know what to do. And others that are having relationship difficulties or would like a relationship or want to create a business and want to know how to connect, and they begin to realize that these secrets are not secrets, they're just in here. And if I'm willing to explore what I think is true and be willing to see that maybe some of it isn't true, maybe I'm not stupid, my big brother told me, maybe I'm not, that I can actually, using these tools to find these beliefs and to manage and direct my attention, that I can be happier and healthier, and so can my family. In fact, my kids can do this course. They can learn when they're young instead of waiting as long as I did, that not only are we happy for ourselves, but we're planting seeds in the world, and we are creating a legacy of young leaders in the world who can, when they step up into that position, have a whole new mindset, and that by using these tools, we can shift the collective and create leaders that can carry that forward with a lot of experience and a lot of awareness because they've been living in that world instead of the world of win lose. Uh, I mean, I just get so excited thinking of the possibilities. I will probably not be here maybe when that happens, at least not in this body, but to know that we do what we can do, that we've done our best. Yeah, these tools allow all of us to do the best, to create what we want and what we want for our family, our clients, and the rest of the world for years to come. So that's what I do. And if anyone, really believes that there are a set of tools that you can use to strengthen your own consciousness and to clean it up, and that it would help yourself and your family, I would just love to have a conversation with you. Maybe you'd be interested, maybe not. It doesn't really, that isn't the agenda. It's just, you may have questions that I can answer, and I do info hours that actually teach some of the tools. So you'd go away, whether you take the course or not, with some tools that can have you start managing the way you think and the way you expect things to be.
So Marilyn, if they wanted to take you up on your invitation to an Avatar Info Hour, how would they connect with you?
Well, they could call me, and my phone number is 408 378 9958.
Okay, 408-378-9958.
Yes. Ah.
See, that worked like magic.
And I also have an email address.
Okay.
And it's Marilyn at Avatar SV, and the SV stands for Silicon Valley.com.
At sbavatar.com. Okay.
I also, Harry Palmer has written 4 awesome books. So some people might rather even read a book before they connect with me, but I have a supply of books at home, or I can direct you to the Avatar bookstore online, and you can start just by picking up one of his books and seeing if the ideas that he puts forth are something that appeal to you. And I would really like to encourage that, because the books are great, they're inspirational, and you might find that that's really will help you become more clear on whether you want to go forward and get these tools for yourself.
Well, that's wonderful. Thank you so much, Marilyn, for being with us today, teaching more women entrepreneurs how to really connect at a deeper level, move away from convincing or having an agenda. You told us all about the difference between agenda and intention, which I think is a huge missing. A lot of people don't know the difference between the two. And you took it all the way from us connecting with people at our home to people in our business and our clients to having the whole world have tools to be able to better connect with each other and have a world that works for everybody. So, I mean, that is so powerful. I love your energy. I love your contribution to our chapter. You've been a phenomenal chapter advisor and just a mentor to so many women entrepreneurs in PHB throughout the years. And I just want to applaud you and who you stand and what you stand for and your ability to help us all be better connected.
Well, I want to thank you for the same things, because I experience the incredible work that you're doing, and it's so aligned. And I'm just gratified that we're on the same track. And I really want to thank anyone who was on this broadcast, this FaceTime Live, and anyone who watches the video for being interested in expanding your ability to connect. And I want you to know it just takes practice. It's a skill. So practice, practice, practice. Practice with your kids, practice with your husband, practice with your parents, practice waiting in line, and develop this skill. It's like any other. Once you practice it, it becomes easier and easier.
Yes, and also practice it by coming to our roundtable, which is coming up for our Silicon Valley chapter this fourth Wednesday, lucky 6/26 at 11:30 till 1:30. So definitely be there and move from hearing about connectedness to engaging in actual exercises that Marilyn has recommended for our community to do so that we can build a deeper connectedness with each other and then take it out to the world. So very powerful.
I'll be there too.
And Marilyn will be, breaking news, Marilyn will be there too. So you get to meet the expert and connect with her in person. That is so cool. I love it. I love it. I love it. So thank you again, Marilyn, for being with us. I love every connection counts. Say it with me. Every connection counts. With that, keep promoting your business and each other. Online, offline, all the time. Bye, everybody.